Hi guys, today you're going to look at solving inequalities using multiplication and division. So we're going to write this down, put your date on the top. Okay, here's what you need to remember. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. Remember, that means they're the opposite of each other. So write yourself a note for that. Okay, remember, inverse means opposite. Okay, so if you look at just a reminder of our other equations, you're solving them the same way. So if we said 14 is equal to 2 times y, you have multiplication going on here. The inverse, or the opposite, would be to divide, and you're going to divide by whatever's happening to the variable. So draw your line, and you're going to divide both sides by 2. So that leaves y all by itself, and 14 divided by 2 would be 7. So we're saying that 7 equals y. Remember, we don't leave it though. You have to always check your work. So put your check down here and substitute that 7 back in for y. So it would be 14 equals 2 times 7, which is true, so you know your solution is correct. Okay, now on the opposite side, if you had an equation that was a division problem to start, so w divided by 3 equals 12, the inverse or opposite of division would be multiplication. So you're going to multiply both sides by 3. That cancels those two out. W is left on its own, and 12 times 3 is 36. Okay, last step, remember, always check your work. So if we've done it correctly, 36 divided by 3 should equal 12, which it does. So you are good to go. Remember the difference here, this is an actual equation where you have one answer. We're going to move down to inequalities where you don't have one answer anymore, you can have infinite solutions. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at solving and graphing the inequalities. Okay, solve and graph the inequality. All right, here's your first equation I want you to do, or inequality I should say. Let's do 4 is greater than or equal to r divided by 2. There is division going on here. So remember, you're going to use the inverse or the opposite of whatever's happening to the variable. It's being divided, so we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by that 2 right there. Make sure you draw your line down the middle. And you're going to do times 2 then on this side as well. So that cancels those out, and you would now read 8 is greater than or equal to r. But I want to graph this and make sure that my variable is in the front. So flip it, flip-flop. R is less than or equal to 8. And now you're all set to graph. Make sure that when you go to graph this, you put a couple of numbers above and a couple of numbers below. So because it has the less than or equal to, you are going to include a closed circle at 8, because it means that your solutions could include 8. So there's a first example for you. Okay, let's go on to number 2. This time, what I want you to do is write down on here 8 times h is less than 56. So we always start to look at what's happening to the variable. Well, it's being multiplied. So how do you undo multiplication? You use the opposite, or inverse, which is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 8, which means that h is now by itself, and it reads h is less than 7. Now the one thing you want to do that I didn't do up top, and I should have, is check it. So put that in there. Is 8 times 7 less than 56? No, so it means that it's not going to include 7, it's going to include anything below it. So when you go to graph this, make sure you don't fill in the circle there. So put a couple of numbers above, a couple of numbers below, and it is an open circle to the left, because left is less than. Left is less than. Okay, let's do a couple more. So, third example. Here's where it's going to get a little tricky. Let's do a fraction. So 4/5 times y is greater than or equal to 8. Remember the rule with fractions. If you have to divide, all you do is flip and multiply. So right now, this is multiplication. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to flip the fraction and multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So times 5/4. That means that our 8 has to go over 1. Now check to see if you can cross cancel, which you can. 4 can go into itself once and into 8 twice. And now when I multiply across, I'm going to get y is greater than or equal to 10. So on the side here, make your graph. 10 is where you'll start. Do a couple of numbers above, a couple of numbers below, and this is going to be a closed circle because it's telling us that it will include 10. So it's greater than, going to the right, and there is your graph to represent that inequality. All right, one last one to do. We're going to flip it over. Let's do a decimal. So you've got 2.5 times x is less than or equal to 15. Remember, always look at what's happening to the variable. It's being multiplied, so we're going to do the opposite and divide both sides. So that leaves x here. X is less than or equal to 6. So we make our graph, put the 6 in here. Now, because it has that equal to part, it means it includes 6. So when we put our circles on here, we're going to shade that in, and left is less than. Left is less than. So it's exactly the same as solving with equations, except now you have the inequality symbol, so you're going to include a graph to show the different solutions that would work. All right, good luck, and email me if you have any questions.